the generation that I am, all right, and the generation that you are, really need to recognize that they have to be smart with their money. Because everything is becoming more and more expensive, but the cost of long-term care is what we call it actually is rising at a higher rate than the cost of other needs.
Okay.
What does it look like to live an incline life, to turn your passions into actions? Join me as I sit down with guests to learn how they took their lives to the next level.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Incline Podcast. And today I have the special honor to have a good friend and honestly somebody I look up to a whole lot, Amy from Long Term Liaison. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Josh.
So if you don't mind, I know a lot about you, but the people at home now get the privilege to know more about you. Tell us about who you are.
Okay, thank you. So I was born in Michigan. We moved to South Carolina when I was about 6 or 7, my dad's company. I grew up in Lugoff, South Carolina, and then I moved to North Augusta in 1993 when my husband and I got married. He was working at Savannah Riverside at the time.
Awesome. And then, so now you own a great company. And tell us about how that journey got started.
So I went to work for a home health company, which services typically the older population in their homes, paid for by Medicare. And I was doing that a couple days a week. I did that from 2004 till about 2010. And then in 2010, the Affordable Care Act came down the pipe, otherwise known as Obamacare. And I saw the writing on the wall that reimbursement for care to those who needed it, paid for by Medicare, was going to be changing immensely. And I wanted to get into something where people were choosing to hire me for what I had learned and what I knew and how I could help them, and I didn't have to worry about Medicare or private insurance or the government.
That's great. I mean, everybody knows that healthcare is such a not only political issue, but it's a real issue that people don't understand what they even have. I don't know what my insurance covers either. Like, we just don't know. So tell us about the company, and like you told us why you kind of started, but what do you do? What's it about? Stuff like that.
Okay. So we provide what's called aging life care management, which is really a fancy term I tell people for privately hired nurses and social workers and support staff to assess their needs or their elderly loved ones' needs, and to educate them about the resources to meet those needs and connect them to those resources. And for a lot of our clients, we've had them for many years, and we become almost like a rented family member. And we coordinate their day-to-day care and go to the doctor with them and communicate with their families. Sometimes the families live here, sometimes they live away. We deal with the doctor's offices, the pharmacies, the elder law attorneys. We're expected to know what's available in the community and ensure that our clients receive exceptional care, because we help them or their families or decision makers navigate the care system.
Wow, that's a lot. I mean, a lot of you are taking the burden off the family for doing all of it. Tell us about, I mean, that's what you do. Tell us about your first client. Like, how did you gain your first client?
So because I had been a home health social worker in Aiken County, I decided when I was going to start this business that I would go to the referral partners, well, people that I consider to be referral partners, that I had met when I was a home health social worker. So for instance, I had dealt with several professionals who sold long-term care insurance, and I had helped my home health patients use their long-term care insurance. So I went to that professional person, that salesman or that financial planner, or I went to the assisted livings where I had patients through home health and said, I'm going to do this, or the non-medical in-home care agencies and said, I'm going to do this. And they all said, great. And they had worked along beside me, so they knew what sort of service I provided, and I knew them and some of their struggles. So my very first client actually was in Greenwood, South Carolina, and someone in that area had called a show in Columbia. It was a call-in show called Parent Care.
Okay.
And the sponsor, the gentleman who was running the program, was a talk show, looked me up on our professional organization's website and saw that I was here, centered in North Augusta, Aiken County, and I was the closest to their loved one in Greenwood, South Carolina.
Wow.
And that's how I got my very first client. But within the year or so, the people I'd gone to and said, I'm going to do this, and had experienced working with me, started referring. And so you know how that goes. Then you help somebody and they're satisfied, and then word of mouth spreads, and then this professional refers to you and they get feedback that you did a good job, or hopefully you did a good job, and it just grows and grows and grows.
It's so important. The referral business is like, I mean, it's how we all grow our business. So now you have an organization of how many people working with you?
So 10, including myself.
That's amazing. Did you ever think it was going to be 10
No.
people?
No.
What was like when you got started, like, what was your goal? What was your dream?
So interestingly enough, when I got started, I thought it would just be me. So there are aging life care managers who we call solo practitioners. They decide that they are going to be the only one providing services. That I think comes in part from the desire to control what goes on. And so after I had been in business a few years, I hired a business consultant. And he really pushed me to recognize that there were so many people in the market in need. And if I was going to help more people and their families, I had to replicate what I had done and done well, and hire people with that same philosophy and mindset and values. So we worked on a whole business plan to do that. And that is what I strive to do now. I'm very picky about who I hire, and it takes a long time for me to vet them.
Do you see, like, where do you see the future for like your company personally? Do you see it continue to grow, or is it just I don't want to use the word picky, but you did. So if you're so like intense on the hiring process, is that the hardest thing holding you back to grow more, or are you in a good spot right now here?
Well, I always, when I got to 2 or 3 employees, I thought this is going to be it. And when I got to 6 or 7, I thought this is going to be it. Right now, I think this is probably going to be it, right? And not everybody who works for me is full-time. Some have other jobs in the healthcare arena. Some do work for me full-time. Some work for me part-time, but I'm their only, long-term liaisons is their only job. I'm really flexible, and I recognize that people need that and want that. I think that it could grow. My concern, because I always want the service we provide to be stellar, is that you have to be very careful and measure your growth. Because if you get ahead of yourself, you lose those core values and that core mission. And our brand, over the last several years, I've identified as exceptional care management. We can't provide that if we've grown too big too fast.
That is like entrepreneurship 101, like smart growth. Like, that's so good. I mean, that's so good. Like that's for me, that's where I'm at too as well. Like that's the hard thing. It's like, how do you can grow, but you gotta do it smartly. You can't just give up on what you're about and what you care about. So healthcare in America is a different topic, and not the political side of it, but like I mentioned again, like I don't know what insurance I have. I don't know what insurance my family has. Hearing from a friend of ours who has great insurance, thought he did, but now he's in a situation the insurance company is declining all their stuff. Like, your education piece, what can you help people with on that?
So we can help people understand, first of all, if they have Medicare or a supplement, or if they have a Medicare Advantage plan. What is it and how does it work? We can help people understand better the VA system, what's available to them if they qualify. Sometimes we have to teach our clients and their families about Medicaid and how do you qualify for that, and what services that provides. Sometimes they have long-term care insurance, and we help them understand that. That's a great vehicle to pay for care, because what we have to teach is that Medicare doesn't pay for daily care. It doesn't pay for someone to help you bathe and dress and cook and clean. So you have to figure out how to get that care in another way. Is that Medicaid? Is that you have monies to pay for it? Do you have long-term care insurance to pay for it? Can you get it through the VA? Are you going to need to move in with a family member to get the oversight and supervision that you might need, right? And the care. Do you have to combine a household and monies to do that? Because what we know is money buys care. So some people are much better posed to be able to do that. because they've worked and been able to save more, or they've got a better retirement, or they bought long-term care insurance before it was astronomically expensive. And it is very expensive.
Yeah.
It's a great benefit if you can do it. So,
No, this is
answer
so
your
good. No,
question?
yeah, that answered my question a lot, and I can go so many different avenues. But where do you see, like, what's changing in America to help? Like, where can you help with the change in America? Because I know we talked a minute ago about like the longer life expectancies, like stuff like that. Where do you see that happening?
So I see a couple different things, all right? I think that the generation that I am, all right, and the generation that you are, really need to recognize that they have to be smart with their money, because everything is becoming more and more expensive. But the cost of long-term care, is what we call it, actually is rising at a higher rate than the cost of other needs.
Okay.
And so to understand that and think about that and plan, and at 25, I've got a son who's 25, I've connected him to a financial planner, and I've told him, you have to think about the future, because there are not going to be programs as in depth as there might even be now when he needs care, or even when I need care. So I was 48 when I bought long-term care insurance.
Wow.
Because I see the benefit of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is so good. I'm sitting here thinking my own family was like, okay, they need it. If not, it's going to fall back on our shoulders. And again, it costs money. That's what it comes down to. So let's take a little bit of a turn a little bit. So I want to hear more about, you're starting this company off. You have the referral partnerships coming in. I don't want to say the word fear, but was there any point you were overwhelmed and like, all right, what do I do next? I have a bunch of things coming in, but because I know you're working long hours. There's no 9 to 5 in this. I mean, you're doing 10:30, 3 a.m. like you're working. How's that look for you?
How did that look, or how does that look now?
Probably a combination of both.
Yeah.
I'm sure some of the things
Well,
don't change.
So I remember when I went to my husband one time, I'd probably been in business for about 3 years, and my kids were middle and high school at that time, because my goal had been to be a mom and raise my kids, which I did when they were younger, and then I started this business, right?
Awesome.
I said, I got to do something. And he said, hire somebody. And I was like, right? And I had to take the step. And then I hired a housekeeper, right? Because what we don't have time for, because we are actually making money to afford, we hire a service to help us, right?
Yeah.
So I hired a housekeeper.
I love it.
Though my kids had been taught how to clean the house, I thought, it's time. I can do this. I can feel good about this. And so over time, yes. I heard somebody say one time, and he was during a TED Talk, and he was an entrepreneur, and he said, somebody asked me if I'm afraid. He said, I live afraid. Because if you're not afraid about the next step, you're not really contemplating the next step.
Yeah.
Fear comes from the unknown. I don't know what's going to happen when I take this turn and decide to offer this service now, or hire this person. I hope I'm making a great choice. Again, I am very particular about who I hire, but you don't know.
Yeah.
So you're going to be afraid, but you have to step out and do it. And if it doesn't work, what do? You drop back and punt, and you say, okay, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Now, what did I learn from that? And how am I going to tweak this to be better down the road for the people that work for me, the people that we serve, and ultimately for myself, so I have balance. So I started in 2017 tracking the time that I spent every day working.
Wow.
And I have done that every day since then. And it was very eye-opening for me, but I work about 40 to 50 hours a week, which some entrepreneurs probably work a whole much more than that. But I knew for my emotional and mental health, if I was working more than that consistently, it was too much.
Yeah.
And it was time to bring somebody on to be the admin assistant, or help out with the care management, or hire a nurse. It's like that was my balance point.
That's great.
Right? And that's been a benchmark for me. And I also don't work on Sundays.
Good for you. Is it hard for you to say no to people on a Sunday if they call you?
No. Now, when I say I don't work on Sundays, if I have an established client that ends up in the emergency room, that's different, right?
You have your pop flies.
But 2 years ago, I used to work on Sundays thinking, I'm going to get caught up for the next day.
Yeah.
And my faith told me, don't do that anymore. Don't do that.
So good.
You listen to what God tells you, which that is the day to rest.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, I decided I'm not working on Sundays anymore, unless it's an emergent situation. And my business has gone, whew.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing, and it's the truth.
Yeah. For us on our side of the business, like when we first started tithing on our business, it all changed. It's just like you give back to God what He's given you, and He'll give you a lot more.
Absolutely.
In different ways than you ever could believe.
Because I would say I was relying on my own understanding of, I think I need to do this on Sunday evenings for 2 hours to be ready for Monday. No, what I really needed to do is just continue to rest in that day and enjoy my time with my husband or my friends or what have you, so that I would be completely rested for Monday.
Yeah, because you burn yourself out if you go through it and you go through the emotions and you forget the joy of what you're working with. So tell me about, I'm sure there's so many you can probably think of. Tell me a great testimony that a client has told you, because I'm sure, like, I'm thinking myself is like, if I have this going on, if I live out of state, I need to take care of my mom. How do I take care of my life, my immediate family, but also take care of mom? So I'm sure there's so many stories that you can just give a positive story about.
Yeah, so I had a client, and she lived here in Aiken with her husband, and the daughter lived in Florida, and she was very concerned about mom, and she hired us after an incident occurred between the client and her husband. And the daughter came to town, and they interviewed me, and they hired me. And for several years, myself and my staff visited the client at her home, and the husband was not very receptive, but he let us come in.
Yeah.
And then she had a stroke, and he was not on board with me doing for the client really what needed to be done at the time. But I got into action, right?
Yeah.
And we got her to the hospital, and we moved her to an assisted living. And the daughter knew that dad was okay at home, and mom was now where she needed to be in an assisted living. She wasn't really getting the interaction, the social interaction, the nutrition, or anything that she really needed at home, because we couldn't bring enough care into the home to really help her. So it was a balancing act between the husband and the wife, who was my client. And we moved her to an assisted living, and she did really well. And then we moved her from there to a different assisted living back to Aiken, where she did very, very well, and she ended up dying there. But I would say the daughter, through the years, would call me if she was really struggling with an emotional piece, either dealing with mom or dad.
Yeah.
She and the daughter and her husband and I all really became friends, and they just recognized that we became the local person for her mother. We were the boots on the ground. We were the ones that would go to her in need, in time of distress, and just to visit, right? So we built the relationship over time. So when we really had the situation where she was in dire medical need, we were able to do what we needed to do to get her the care she needed.
That's so good. Such a blessing, too. I mean, I can only imagine being in that situation. It's a blessing. It's a good job. Way to follow your calling. What's the future look like for you? Do you know what the future holds for the company, for you personally?
No.
No? Let's go.
I don't know. Again, I never thought I'd be here, and so here I am. And I live a little scared, but I live a little excited.
Yeah.
I do think I'd like to transition out of this, though, in 7 or 8 years. I'm looking to start, this is what the future might hold for me.
There you go.
I'm looking to start consulting with people who want to start care management businesses,
Right.
or who are already in business and they're kind of stuck. So they're at the 2 or 3 year mark, and they're not sure they want to bring somebody out, or they have and it hasn't been a good fit, or they can't keep up.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody like that, right? I could talk to care managers at conferences, but did I have somebody who really had walked the walk the whole time that I was engaged with? No, not who had done care management. So I'm working on that right now. I'm about to launch a side business doing that and help people build this, because this is very, very much needed.
That's so good. Like giving back in so many different ways, not just to the client itself, but to other entrepreneurs to be able to help more people. Like your reach and your legacy will last on forever.
I hope so.
That's so cool. All right, so let's do a little fun segment. We're gonna ask some pop fly questions, some rapid fire, so 1-word answers. You ready? Are you scared?
No.
There you go. All right, so here we go. Favorite place to take a vacation, beach or mountains?
Oh, beach.
Favorite candy?
Red licorice.
Really? Mm-hmm. Interesting. Why that? The flavor? There you go. I like it. Favorite restaurant?
I might say Manuel's.
Oh,
Locally.
Yeah, that's great.
Manuel's.
What's your go-to item to get there? Food?
Food. Is that what you said, Josh?
Food, not wine.
Probably their fries. I think their fries are amazing.
You and Bethany are the same person. It's
Does
so
she love
scary.
them too?
Golly. Bethany's like a fry connoisseur. They're hand cut there.
And to me, they have a little bit of almost batter on them, which I don't know if they do or not.
Yeah.
But that's what it kind of seems like to me. Yeah. And they serve them in that nice silver, typically that nice silver cup. You know. Love it.
I love it. Favorite thing to do after 7 p.m.?
Socialize with my friends.
Love it. Favorite thing you love about your hubby?
He's so good at laundry.
Does he fold it and wash it and everything for you? That's awesome. And we'll kind of wrap it up here in a second, but what's the best piece of advice you can give to somebody who is wanting to start their own business, whether it be in your field or any kind of field really, but what's the biggest thing you could tell them to do?
Seek out others who can help you answer your questions when you don't know what way to go.
That's awesome.
Other professionals. So if you have an accounting question, get a good accountant, right? If you have a legal question, get a good attorney. If you have a branding, marketing, sales question, right?
Yeah.
Or thought, get others to help you.
That's so good. I think what's really special about this whole show and episode is you can go back and listen to so many different things, and it can really help you in any stage of your life or business, or just kind of help you guide your family members through some difficult conversations that you might have, like, hey, what's the plan for the future? Things like that. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us today about you or about your business or about anything?
I consider what I do a privilege. I'm honored. So much of the time, families will say, "Oh, thank you so much. You've been an angel. You've been this," or my staff, right? About my staff, and I always say it's our honor.
Yeah.
It is our honor to help you and your family. I do think this is my calling. I remember in graduate school, when I was getting my master's in social work, we had a gerontology certificate, right, which is working with the elderly. I thought, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to work with old people, right? And God has sent me down this path. I never thought it would have happened, but it very much is an honor, because we can have knowledge, but where do we get wisdom? We get wisdom from experience. And where do we get life experience? From living day to day. And even when my elderly clients fall into dementia, probably 90% of them have some level of dementia, they're still intelligent people.
Yeah.
They're still people worthy of love and care and respect. And so we have to learn to balance that with how to make sure that their needs are met. And so it is an honor to help them.
It's so true. I'm just seeing my family, the things we've been through is it's tough. It's tough. Well, it's been an honor to have you. And here's something really cool. For y'all who don't know, is there was an easy opportunity today to make this thing be an excuse, and we could have pushed it to another day because we had a little bit of car trouble. But in business and opportunity, you always take advantage of the quote unquote obstacles in front of you, and Bethany got to pick you up. You got to hang out with Bethany for a few seconds. So with anything that ever pops up negative wise, you just take advantage of the opportunity in front of you, and thank God for it. And we're here. It's been a blessing to have you here. I think everybody at home is going to learn so much from this, because there is so much people don't know, and this is the greatest avenue at all that you can go to. So how can people get in contact with you, and what's the best website or thing they can do next for you?
So our website is longtermliaisons.com, liaison spelled LIAISONS.com. And my phone number?
Yeah, whatever you want to give to
My
them.
cell number, 803-215-1019.
Awesome.
Thanks.
You're the best. Until next time.
Before this whole interview ends, I have to say one more thing. My husband can fix anything.
I love it.
And I love it.
You are so in love.
We are in love. 30 years, a week and a half ago. 30 years.
Thanks for tuning into the show today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our show, and we look forward to seeing you on the next Incline Podcast.